Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is no longer running for re-election. This while the federal fraud probe into his state continues to expand, with the scams potentially totaling billions of dollars. The case involves Somali immigrants allegedly stealing from welfare programs by claiming to run fake daycare centers. Joining us now to assess is we welcome Democratic strategist Lee Neves and Republican strategist Matt Klink. Great to have you both on. Lee, let's start with you. Governor Walz not admitting any wrongdoing, simply saying that the issue has turned political. Did he do enough to address the fraud concerns initially?
No. I mean, this originally arose back in 2022. The Biden Department of Justice was prosecuting people for fraud in some apparently COVID-era programs back in 2022, and still Governor Walz didn't do anything. Look, I don't think he should have ran for re-election in the first place. I'm a big fan of chief executives, be it presidents or governors, only running for 2 terms and then, going on the speaking circuit or whatnot. But he definitely dug himself in a hole. He dug himself in a hole last year when pretty much everyone across the board says he was a very ineffective VP candidate. I just stating the facts. And then his response to this was like he was trying to make excuses, trying to brush under the rug, trying to minimize it. Instead of doing what he should have done was to come out and say, hey, look, there's fraud. We're going to fix it. We're going to go catch the people who are doing it. We're going to put them behind bars for a very long time. He ceded the high ground to the Republicans on this instead of nipping it in the bud, which he should have done 3 years ago, and said, we're going to go after the fraudsters. We're going to stop this right now. He tried to minimize it, hoping it would go away and it would be a big nothing burger. Well, surprise, it was not a nothing burger. It was a growing problem in his state. Even members of the Democratic Party were telling him, you probably shouldn't run. People are getting really mad about this. Who's going to come to fill in the vacuum? Probably Senator Amy Klobuchar, who not only is very well liked, but has a past as a former prosecutor. So she'll be able to come in and say, look, I'm a prosecutor. It's my job to put these people away. We're going to catch them. We're going to put them away. We're going to make sure they're not wasting your tax dollars.
And Matt, Lee makes a really good point that this didn't just come out of the blue. There were rumblings of this fraud for quite some time. Now you still have Governor Walz doubling down to a certain extent, defending Somali immigrants and calling the whole issue political gamesmanship from Republicans. What's your reaction to the governor?
Well, it's an epic fall from the peak of power for Governor Walz. This is a man who was pretty darn close to be elected vice president of the United States. But, look, I do think that it's a shame that, that there are a lot of Somali immigrants in Minnesota that are doing the right thing and putting their nose to the grindstone and working hard. But there is also some that have radically abused the system. And this is a scandal that just keeps on getting worse for Governor Walz. And it affects more and more Minnesota government programs. I think that what he probably did is that his internals, from a polling perspective, probably looked pretty grim. And that conversation with his family was probably, I'm not going to win. What should I do? So he did the right thing and he bowed out. But look, had he won, the arrogance of one party controlling power in Minnesota, I think that the last Republican to win statewide was 2006. This is what happens when one party controls everything. They swept a lot of this scandal under the rug, and I think it's going to impact a lot more than just Governor Walz. I think that there is the Attorney General. There are some elected officials in Minneapolis that are on the hot seat. I think this thing is going to go broad and deep, and it's going to really expose some serious malfeasance, and hopefully we'll end up in a lot of arrests in Minnesota for people who scammed American taxpayers.
Lastly, time's limited. There's so much going on in this news cycle. I do want to address another topic with you. Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona just received a formal censure from the Pentagon. He could also see his military title and pension demoted. This is over the video he put out not too long ago with a few other Democratic lawmakers telling members of the military to disobey illegal orders, as he put it, implying that President Trump's orders were unlawful. Lee, what do you think the impact of that video he put out was and perhaps was intended to be?
Well, I mean, let's face it, this is very retaliatory, and it's something to expect from this administration. They did it with James Comey, that got thrown out. They did it with Letitia James, that got thrown out. Here, they're accusing the senator of violating sections 133 and 134 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which says he was characterizing lawful military actions as illegal. Except he wasn't specifically characterizing anything as illegal. He was simply saying, do not follow unconstitutional orders. He wasn't specifically characterizing anything. There's nothing specific they could point to he was saying was illegal and unconstitutional, was simply saying, don't follow unconstitutional orders. What's going to be the end game of all this? I think the end game of all this is that they're making Senator Mark Kelly a martyr. Mark Kelly is now able to say, I was prosecuted by the Trump administration. And if that's not a really strong case to take into a 2028 presidential primary for a Democratic candidate, I don't know what is.